Sawate omnes, today we will be learning from Chapter 14 of Wheelock, which includes I-stem nouns of the third declension, and the ablative of means, accompaniment, and manner. I-stem nouns are just regular third declension nouns that have a characteristic I in some of the case endings. These are also sometimes called consonant stems. The only ending shared by all I stems, masculine, feminine, and neuter, is IUM in the genitive in plural instead of UM. The neuter has a few additional new endings. Long I instead of E in the ablative singular, IA instead of A in the nominative and accusative plural. On your screen now, you can see an example of a masculine feminine I-stem noun and a neuter I-stem noun. The new endings can be seen in bold. In kiwis kiwis, which is masculine, the genitive plural is kiwium instead of kiwum. In mare maris, which is neuter, the ablative singular is mari instead of mare. The nominative plural is Maria instead of Mara, the genitive plural is Marium instead of Marum, and the accusative plural is Maria instead of Mara. There are only a few third declension nouns that are I-stem nouns. Here are a few tips for recognizing what nouns are I-stem nouns. Most masculine and feminine nouns that have a nominative ending in is or es and the same number of syllables in the nominative and genitive are I-stem nouns. Some examples of I-stem nouns of this type are hostis, hostis, nawis, nawis, moles, molis, and kiwis, kiwis. Masculine and mostly feminine nouns with a nominative singular ending in s or x, which have a stem ending in two consonants, are also I-stems. Therefore, rex regis isn't an I-stem because its stem is reg, but ars artis, dens dentis, nox noctis, and herbs urbis are, because each of their stems end in two consonants. Finally, neuter nouns with nominatives that end in al, ar, or e are I-stem nouns. These include animal, animalis, exemplar, exemplaris, and mare maris. This chapter also introduces the irregular third declension I-stem noun wees, wees. It is a very common word, and because its forms look similar to we or weary, it must be memorized to avoid confusion. One way to help is to recall that the stem of we or weary has a short I, whereas the characteristic long I of wees wees remains in almost every form of the noun. The genitive and dative singular of this noun are rarely used, but should still be memorized. The forms of this noun are as follows: wees in the nominative singular, wees in the genitive singular, we in the dative singular, wem in the accusative singular, we in the ablative singular, vires in the nominative plural, virium in the genitive plural, viribus in the dative plural, vires in the accusative plural, and viribus in the ablative plural. This chapter also introduces three uses of the ablative. You have frequently encountered in the readings ablative nouns and pronouns employed simply as objects of prepositions. There are several more distinct uses of the ablative, some requiring a preposition and some not. You'll want to keep track of all these different uses, as you will now be expected to identify whether or not ablatives in a sentence are being used in any of these special uses. It will be the function when parsing. The first use introduced in this chapter is the ablative of means or instrument. This is when a noun or pronoun answers the question, by what means, by what, or with what, the action of the verb is performed. It is just a noun or pronoun in the ablative without a preposition. To translate it, you supply the English preposition by or with. Some examples include Kiwes pecunia vicit, he conquered the citizens with money. In this sentence, pecunia is the ablative of means and instrument and is translated as with money. In the sentence, id meis oculis vidi, I saw it with my eyes, meis oculis is the ablative of means / instrument and is translated as with my eyes. In the sentence, literas stilo scripsit, he wrote a letter with a pencil. Stilo is the ablative of means or instrument and is translated as with a pencil. The second use of the ablative introduced in this chapter is the ablative of accompaniment. It is a noun or pronoun, usually a person, that answers the question in whose company or with whom the action is performed. It is an ablative, again usually a person, with the preposition cum. To translate, use cum as with, followed by the noun or pronoun. In the sentence, cum amicis venerunt, they came with friends, cum amicis is the ablative of accompaniment and is translated as with friends. In this sentence, id cum eis fecit, he did it with them, cum eis is the ablative of accompaniment and is translated as with them. This use of the ablative is easily confused with the ablative of manner, as you will see on the next slide. The final use of the ablative introduced in this chapter is the ablative of manner. It is a noun, never a pronoun, that answers the question how or in what manner the action is performed. It is the preposition cum plus the ablative of the noun, which will usually be an abstract noun. It is also translated as with plus the noun, which is why it is easily confused with the ablative of accompaniment. In the sentence, cum celeritate venerunt, they came with speed, cum celeritate is the ablative of manner and is translated as with speed. In the sentence, id cum virtute fecit, he did it with courage, cum virtute is the ablative of manner and is translated as with courage. If you are just looking at cum plus an ablative and are confused as to whether it is accompaniment or manner, just remember that accompaniment answers the question with whom and manner the question how. There's no culture this chapter because the passage is another one written by Cicero on the Catilinarian conspiracy. Be sure to start working on the worksheets for this chapter and begin prepping for your test next week. If you have any questions or concerns, email me. Volete omnes.